Welcome to the Green Room, where we go behind the scenes of the latest and greatest interviews and give you the uncut version of how the interview actually took place. So we have our guest, Keith Willis. Keith, how was the interview?
It was good. I went some places I wasn't expecting to go.
That's the timeline and the roller coaster of life. But I think that it's always good because, especially, listen, I'm ex-Navy myself, and I often can stonewall people with my structure and my skills and being orderly. But when people understand that, listen, I this did not just start here. There was a whole path and a trajectory that led to this point. Then it helps people to embrace the overall message, and it just makes people understand that there was a whole community behind who you are today, and it just makes your message so much more, I believe, more powerful.
Oh, absolutely.
So that is, was there anything in terms of where the interview went, what surprised you about the twists and turns, or what you thought you were going to discuss versus how it actually
I didn't expect that I'd be getting into a conversation about father. Sometimes I get a little choked up about that because he did have a big impact on my life. I realized one of my biggest blessings that I've had is being able to have that available to me, and people not necessarily having that. I think the other thing, though, I've thought about is that sometimes we don't take the opportunity to think about, the men that are in our lives that really help us achieve where we are. Oftentimes they are there. We just have to kind of reach out and kind of grab onto that. So I didn't expect to get into that conversation. I know one of my thoughts that I've had around a book is The Men of My Life.
Mm-hmm.
You kind of think about out of the negative press, the abuse. Lewis Howes has a book, I think he just wrote around the mask of masculinity.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, and I haven't read his book, but I think part of it is around the positive aspects of being a man.
Mm-hmm.
You think about, we're in a society that's patriarchal. So I think that I think there's a huge opportunity there. I think there's a lot of men out there that are good men.
Mm-hmm.
I think you just got to be a little bit more aware of that. So I didn't really expect to get into that conversation or even growing up, but I guess ultimately that's all a part of who I am. So
Yes, I think in many cases we focus on like what we do. I do this, and what you do is secondary to why you do it. And the people who resonate, I guess you can say, the deepest with an audience or with their target audience, they're the people who exude their why, and they infuse their why into their overall message. And I think that one thing that I actually, this is what you're talking about, your dad is actually going to make me call my dad today. So because we have our standing conversation every Saturday, and the older I get, the more I appreciate it. It's like you can love somebody your entire life, but do you really know them, or can you ask them questions about their perspective as they were raising you? And I feel like I have that gift in being able to actually ask my father real questions and receive honest answers for anything. And so it's like, I'm not one of these people who say like my mom's my friend, or no, you're my mom and I'm the son, or you're my dad and I'm the son. But at the same time, there's what I love about my relationship with my dad is that he respects my mind. He respects that I have my own mind. It's not like, boy, get out of here. Okay, this is how you think about it. Okay, we have intellectual discussion. So when I was out of town, I was in Canada. It was like nonstop work and networking, similar to the speakers retreat. And we normally, and it's a time zone difference. So I'm like, okay, I need to figure out how to make this call. When I finally went to make the call, I had some data plan issues. It's like, I got to make it. So today's the day. I need to make that call. And Saturday call will be today, and we'll get it done.
All right. Well, good.
That's a good thing. So
very good.
Now, as far as the interview itself, did it make you think about, now you mentioned that, of course, the people in your life and maybe taking account for that or just, you know, acknowledging that, and that could be via book, that could be via phone call. What about as far as your path, and did you kind of realize different things about your path, and what was that for you as far as what this conversation resulted in?
You know, I think how this conversation was different. Oftentimes when people ask me about, you know, what have you done, they ask you about your career, and I kind of go through this list of all of these things that I've done and accomplished. And I always look at it as, you know, I haven't really accomplished that much. But people say, yeah, you've done, they'll say, you've had a good career, you've done a lot. And I always say to myself, really? Because I think we spend so much time looking for the next thing, driving for the next thing. And so I think what was different here was it wasn't really about my career. It was more around the other parts of the journey that are probably the more important parts of the journey, which I don't think that as well as a lot of other people spend enough time thinking about or reflecting about. It's always about the stuff that, you know, the hill, the next you know, the next mountain to climb and all of those things versus what are the tools and resources, where did you get those tools and resources from to be able to do the things that you do?
Yeah, and here's I always get little ideas during these interviews. Here's behind the scenes that I never really discuss is that I have to find a way to take notes without the sound of the keyboard typing. So I was trying to remember the book, break all the rules. I'm trying to remember it. But there's two ideas that came from this. Number one, I would like to do a like similar Zoom call, but like a careers focused summit.
Okay.
Definitely want to have you on the panel. I'm thinking about, I'm going to just throw the name out there. Tawana Ross, the LinkedIn professor. Hopefully she's
okay.
Yes. And a few other people. It's just it's an idea, but I think that having the focus on careers and addressing it from different angles, like we covered the social media aspect as far as how it, like, not this traditional here. Do you need a cover letter in 2018? We all know these questions.
Right.
The kind of okay, I want to build my brand, but I have this job. When do I quit?
Right.
Those type of the real questions. And also leading into Father's Day, kind of having some sort of panel where we have thought leaders share their experiences about their dads and just tell that story. And I know, and let's say if somebody doesn't have their dad, maybe their grandfather or whatever the case may be. And I think that would be extremely powerful. And definitely, since you inspired the idea, you will be the first person that is on that panel. So somewhere around, I don't know, April, May.
Okay.
Get the emails going out to set that up.
All right, I definitely would be interested in that. Yeah.
So yes, you have to write that the book now about it's already, this is recorded, it's cemented. You have to write the book.
Well, it's one of those things where, you know, I don't know, it's probably been for I don't know how long, but you know how you wake up in the middle of the night and you have all these thoughts racing in your head, and it's just like, all right, I'm going to have to write this book because I'm supposed to write this book.
Yes.
Literally, will wake up and it'll be thoughts about, you know, different, you know, men that have had these impacts and key lessons and just key insights about things that that there's a running. I remember being when I was in the Army, I had gotten chewed out. I had just gotten chewed out, and I remember talking to this major, and I remember him talking about I don't know, it was something about broad shoulders and being able to kind of take the, for lack of a better term, take the beating.
Yes.
And so I remember I was going through the coaching class. There were some challenges and things that I had, at work. And I think they have been blessings because I'm doing this. And I think sometimes these things happen because you're supposed to be doing other things.
Yes.
So I remember her saying, she was acknowledging, things that people had done, that she talked about, you have all of this stuff, but you're here for everybody. And I remember thinking, it was insightful because somebody else had generally said that probably almost 20 years ago, over 20 years ago. So there's this line there. And I remember other thought that I thought was, is it always good? Should you share some of that and not always take that load? So there were a lot of things that were going on, but it was one of those things where you go back and you kind of look back in time. And those are all connections that I think that are really, really important when we begin to think about where we are and how we got here and what are some of the lessons that played through and what are some of those themes. Maybe there are some strengths there that we haven't really thought about that we could be using more of.
Oh, definitely. And I got a powerful idea for you. You inspired this, so I'm going to give this one to you.
Okay.
Here it is. You write a short book about your father. Here's the twist. Since your father was a community man and very well known and popular, you interview the people who just tell the stories about your dad.
Okay.
People who knew him best, from people, let's say, church and Boy Scouts, and just get all these different stories and just kind of immortalize the man himself. But you're just the narrator of, like, you tell it from the standpoint. You start off with what you thought it was.
Okay.
And then you go into the story through the lens of other people. And what you'll learn in writing it, you'll gain a whole new understanding and perspective. Like, oh, I never even knew he was thinking about that. Like,
okay.
I didn't even know. And it just would be this amazing project that is a legacy project, but also at the same time, when you get on that stage, you're a phenomenal speaker, very, very good speaker. And when you come in with those stories, you unbeatable. So run with that. All
right, I'll do that.
Is that's something you don't necessarily have to write. It's just you get on Zoom with different people and get the stories together and make it short. Make it 40 pages. And it's the stories themselves that drive it, that make it so powerful. Not that it's 200 pages. It's not necessarily about making it a novel. It's about a legacy project.
Okay.
So yes, that is, and it's so many things you can do with that.
All right, I definitely will do that.
Yeah. So yes, we're going to wrap up the Green Room segment. This will be available online. So on behalf of Keith Willis, I am Shadeed Eleazer, and this has been the Green Room, where we go behind the scenes and give you the discussions behind the interviews that take place on Conversational Currency. We thank you for tuning in.